Hey, it's Jen Thone with YourColorStyle.com, and in this video we're going to talk about the differences between soft, cool, and deep and bright, cool, and deep. So let me explain that a little bit in terms of your color style, especially if you're kind of new to the methodology. In your color style, you can be soft or bright. And what that means is that if you're typed as someone who is soft, it means that you wear the colors from the soft color wheel best. These are colors that are slightly muted to maybe even very muted, and you look best in those colors. And if you are typed as bright, it means that you wear the brighter colors best. Typically, if you are someone who's bright, wearing the brighter colors is going to light you up, and the softer colors are going to kind of drain you. And if you are someone who's soft, the brighter colors may overpower you and feel too strong, whereas the softer colors are in more harmony with you. So when we talk about soft, cool, and deep, and bright, cool, and deep, soft, cool, and deep is someone that has cool undertones and wears colors from the soft color wheel best. They're considered deep because they have some deep tones about them. Someone who's bright, cool, and deep wears colors from the bright color wheel best, has cool undertones, and also has deep tones about them. So what's the difference? And if you are someone who feels that they are cool and deep but can't figure out if you're bright or soft, I'm hoping that this video will clear things up for you. So I'm going to walk through using some examples and talk through my thinking about these two different color palettes and color types, and I'm hoping that that will help for you, especially if you're feeling like you're right in the middle there, to figure out which one is going to work better for you. For purposes of example, we're going to use the color analysis cards for soft, cool, and deep and bright, cool, and deep. And these are the cards from the Color Style Kit, which is a DIY color analysis kit that you can order. It comes with 12 cards and an online course to help you figure out your color type. These two cards are perfect for explaining my thought process, so we're going to use these cards as the example. As you can see, the softer colors are on the left and the brighter colors on the right. Now, there's something that's very distinct between the two here that I feel if you can nail this down for your particular coloring and tone, it should answer your question of whether or not you're bright or soft. Someone who is bright, cool, and deep can wear really high contrast patterns really well. The bright, cool, and deep color palette is a very strong, high contrast, really bold, powerful color palette. In my opinion, it is the most intense out of all 12 because it has the lightest of the lights, the darkest of the darks, the bright jewel tones right in the middle, and that individual can really wear stark white well, shiny black really well, those bright jewel tones, and really high contrast patterns like black and white geometric patterns. It's a very strong palette. And someone who's soft, cool, and deep may have similar characteristics to someone who is bright, cool, and deep, but that color palette is just going to be entirely too strong for them. So let me walk you through some examples here and some of my thinking around this, okay? This is someone who's a really good example of bright, cool, and deep. She has very, very dark hair, very light skin. So we have those extremes, that high contrast, and her eyes are very crystally bright. And so which helps balance out those bright jewel tones of the color palette. And so she's a perfect example of someone who's bright, cool, and deep. And when you put the soft colors on her, it doesn't do anything for her. This is very typical of someone who's bright, cool, and deep. If you are bright, cool, and deep, softer, muted colors are not going to flatter you at all. It's not really an in-between sort of thing. It's just sort of like the bright is what you really, really need, and the soft isn't going to really work for you. So if you're someone who's trying to debate whether or not you're bright or soft, but you wear the softer colors really well, you might not necessarily be bright. But that doesn't mean that you can't wear bright colors, so we'll get to that in a minute. Here's someone else that's also a great example of bright, cool, and deep. She doesn't have the bright crystally eyes or the high contrast between skin and hair, but she does have a very deepness about her that the only thing that's going to work well on her are those brighter colors to create the contrast. Her eyes and her teeth probably have a very bright whiteness to them in real life, in person. The photo doesn't really convey that. It's an assumption I'm making. But she would sort of fade away if she were to wear these softer colors. She really needs those bright colors to really create the contrast against that dark skin. Another great example of someone who's bright, cool, and deep. She has a bright white hair, dark eyes, an olive skin tone, but it's also very light. So she doesn't have as much contrast as the first woman that we had seen, but I don't see her wearing soft colors. I feel that those are going to kind of drain her out, and I really like her more in those brighter colors. Another very similar example, bright silvery white hair, deep eyes, a little bit of an olive skin tone here, but enough contrast to support this very strong color palette, where I think that the softer colors they almost look grayer than they normally are, because up against her, she really needs those brighter colors. Same thing here, deep black shiny hair, deep eyes, and even though there's not as much high contrast between the skin and hair, I still think that this color palette is going to suit her far better than the softer colors. I think it sort of just drains her a little bit. And now we get to the opposite. I'm going to show you some good examples of soft individuals that where the bright is going to be too much. She's a perfect example of someone who's soft, cool, and deep. Her eyes are this really soft gray quality. Her hair, although it is deep, overall she just sort of has a grayer, softer quality to her. And the colors from the soft, cool, and deep color palette are in more harmony with her. Where here I feel like these are just too bright and they feel way too strong. Now you may argue and you may say that you actually think she could wear some of the brighter colors, and I would not disagree with you. But for someone who is dominantly soft, cool, and deep, it's not that you can't wear the brighter colors, but I would avoid the bright, cool, and deep color palette because it's so strong and intense. Instead, what I would do is I would wear the soft, cool, and deep colors, and then you can choose to wear brighter colors as you see fit. Maybe it's a brighter lip, or maybe it's a brighter top, or a pattern that has some bright colors in it, but I wouldn't wear all bright. I would just pop those in to complement the deeper tones that you've got, because someone who has deeper coloring in their hair or eyes or skin has a higher tolerance of wearing those brighter colors. But again, the bright, cool, and deep color palette is really strong and not really for everyone who is deep. She's another perfect example of someone who is soft, cool, and deep but has brightness about her. She has these gray eyes. I've seen examples of gray green and gray blue, and this dark hair with the lighter skin. And so the contrast is high. And this is where I think it causes a lot of confusion, because since the contrast on her is high, you want to automatically put her in the bright, cool, and deep color palette. And it's not that she can't wear some of the brighter colors, but I think as a general rule, as an everyday color palette, this is a really strong color palette on her where she's going to look far more in harmony with the soft, cool, and deep. But because she has some brightness to her, she should try wearing some brighter colors. Again, maybe it's a little bit of a brighter lip, or a brighter piece of jewelry, or a brighter color in her and a pattern that she's wearing. But I wouldn't have the bright, cool, and deep as the everyday. So what you might discover is when you're looking at the soft, cool, and deep color palette, there is brightness in it. It's not that it is removed of all brightness. I've customized this color palette so that someone who has coloring like this can still enjoy some of the brighter colors, but you're not going to find the really, really bright, intense jewel tones in this color palette. Doesn't mean you can't wear them. Just wear them when you feel like it, when it feels right for you, when it's fun, it's a special occasion, but I wouldn't choose it as every day. And our last example is another woman who's, in my opinion, a great example of someone who's soft, cool, and deep. She has an overall kind of a low contrast to her and a little bit just a softness to her, but she could definitely pull off some bright colors. I just don't think it's an everyday thing. But since she has those deeper tones in her, again, a little bit of a higher tolerance of wearing some of those brighter colors, but I would go with the soft, cool, and deep as every day, and then pop in the brighter colors as you want, whenever it feels right and feels good to pop in those brighter colors. So that is my thinking through the soft, cool, and deep versus the bright, cool, and deep. I really hope that that helps. And if you're trying to figure out what colors flatter you best, and most importantly, to learn what colors to avoid that drain you or overpower you, take the quiz out on yourcolorstyle.com/quiz. It's absolutely free, and it'll walk you through step by step on how you can figure out what types of colors are going to make you shine. I'm Jen Thoden, and thanks for watching.